I'm Cierra Clark, and I am here with Hannah Hoover from KOCO in Oklahoma City. And welcome to SEC Tea, where we are spilling all the tea from across the Southeastern Conference. But first, make sure you visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me here today. Lots going on in the state of Oklahoma. But I want to start first with Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer. He leads the SEC in passing yards, but he just is coming off of thumb surgery. What do you know about that, and what have you heard around Norman?
I would love to give you an update and tell you all the details, but they are being very quiet about John Mateer's injury, and it makes sense because you're going to play the OU Texas game in just a couple of weeks, and they would like to challenge Texas by saying, what quarterback are you going to get? Are you going to get Michael Hawkins Jr., who's the backup, or are you going to get the quarterback, like you said, that's breaking all kinds of records and having really good games, John Mateer? So we were supposed to speak with John Mateer at a practice availability. He was in town, I guess that was Thursday after his surgery Wednesday. So they really moved quickly. He was back in the facility, and he just didn't feel comfortable to speak. Anyone, after surgery is probably a little groggy and tired. So we really don't have a big update as far as when his return will be. I think there's a lot of optimism that, hey, South Carolina is definitely doable. Texas is still on the table from people who are being very hopeful, but it takes time. You definitely want to make sure you take care of that thumb because his longevity is of the utmost importance. And, Michael Hawkins Jr. has played before in that OU Texas game.
Yeah, and so this episode is going to come out Wednesday, guys. So as you know, in the world of sports, anything can happen at any time. So if there's updates that happen, don't get mad at Hannah. Anyways, I want to go back to John Mateer's history a little bit. He came in from Washington State and then transferred to Oklahoma. What did you guys know about him, or what were fans saying? Were they excited, or what was the vibe around Sooner fans when they found out he was coming to Oklahoma?
Yeah, a lot of people were comparing him to Baker Mayfield. I think a lot of media people were comparing him to Baker Mayfield. So that gets fans excited, of course. I actually had a chance to talk one-on-one with John on SEC Media Days, and he talked about the hair and that's the similarity he sees between himself and Baker Mayfield, which was fun and lighthearted. But I think he runs the ball quite a bit. It's what he is really good at, what we saw a lot from him at Washington State, and coming with his offensive coordinator in Ben Arbuckle. I think fans had a lot of confidence of, okay, these two know what they're doing together. They've had success, and sure, it wasn't in the SEC, but we've seen them really transition nicely so far. They had the big win over Auburn, and we'll see what it looks like OU Texas, but hopefully John Mateer is back. I think overall fans were really excited to have John Mateer and have that hope again. And through the first 4 games, he's given them what they wanted, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, and he is quite the coach. He helped develop Cam Ward at Washington State, and now he's going to be helping out Michael Hawkins Jr., the backup quarterback at Oklahoma. But it is not his first rodeo at OU speaking about Hawkins, because he did play in the Auburn game last year when Oklahoma beat the Tigers then. So what have you seen from Hawkins Jr.? He's more of a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah, he runs it really well. Funny story. I've known Michael Hawkins Jr. since he was like 8 years old. My youngest brother and him played Little League football together. So that's a little fun trivia question for you. And he's always been able to run the ball really great. He's an athletic guy. And so expect to see that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of run plays from Michael Hawkins Jr. But again, he's had a year to prep and to get better. You look at his Auburn game, and it was a great one. You look at his moments against Tennessee when he was thrust into the game when Jackson Arnold was benched last season, and he looked really good. He also had some not so great moments, but maybe you learned some things. He was a true freshman and really just trying to get things going in the SEC, no less. So I think there's a sense of optimism about him for sure, and we'll see what he can do if he is in the center, of everything OU Texas. It's another big one. But good news is he's been there before. He played in that game last year and started, but they lost. So that's the only negative.
And Hawkins Jr., he went to Allen High School, right?
I believe he was there for a little bit. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was at a McKinney school for his senior year. Yeah. And so he did a little traveling around. But the league my brother was in, my youngest brother, he now plays baseball at South Carolina, funny enough. But the league that they called him Mike. That's what they called him. So they were in the Allen League. So, yeah, that's his neck of the woods.
And for you guys that don't know, Hannah has two brothers. Her other brother, Josh Hoover, is the quarterback at TCU. And what's your other brother's name? He's a baseball. What's his name?
Yeah, Caleb Hoover. So Caleb Hoover and Michael Hawkins Jr., they're the same age. So that's the connection I keep talking about because it's kind of fun. Like, of all the places you could be, I just think the sports world is so small. And it's cool that, you kind of end up in the same circle and covering guys that you watched play when they were 8 years old. Like, that's really cool to me. So I enjoy it.
And Hannah also covers Oklahoma State. So she covers the Big 12 and the SEC. And you've had the opportunity to also cover Oklahoma State playing TCU, which is where your brother goes right now. And he's a star quarterback there. And so how is covering your brother, but also covering the team you cover for your job? How does that work? And how do you stay calm during that?
You don't really stay calm. It's the one time you're like trying to keep it together, but everybody on Oklahoma State side that was on the sidelines, media people are giving me a hard time. They're like, you were smiling when TCU scored. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, this is blood. Of course I'm going to be smiling when TCU scores. But no, I mean, my philosophy or my approach was just stick to the stats in this game when I get my post-game report because the stats don't lie and TCU just happened to win that one. So,
and so you grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm originally from Florida. Hannah also went to UF as well.
Let's go Gators. Love it.
Doing great right now, but we support them regardless.
We are loyal and true. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that.
So I grew up in Florida, and Florida, like Texas, has so many talented athletes. But my first time going to Dallas was a few years ago when I was driving to Jerry World to cover the Arkansas versus Texas A&M game. And when I was to the Dallas area, I see these huge stadiums, and I'm like, wait, what college is this? I didn't know there was a college down here. It was the high schools.
Yeah, that's how it is.
High school football in Texas is no joke. I mean, just talk about how big it is down there. It's
huge. Yeah. It really sets up players to be very successful in college because they aren't just, I don't know, there's more intricacy to even play calling and just more preparation. And I can speak to that because my brother is in a position where he felt more equipped, I would say, to be thrust into, a playing environment in D1 college football. So I think you see a lot of Texas players make it to the college football level because of that preparation and because it is such a big deal. Like you go from the fan environment. I was a cheerleader growing up. I mean, we always had a packed stadium, no matter if we were good or not. Like it was what you did on Friday night. And it's just a real fun environment. And it's hard to go to other places, other states even, and be like, not compare it to Texas high school football because it's what I grew up with. And just from a fan perspective, my family my mom was the ringleader of this. She would have these shakers she would make, and we would pass them out to every single fan in the stands, and it would get so loud and so crazy, and you would get called out if you weren't shaking this little noisemaker, hello, get up, it's time to cheer for the defense now, so it's just a different breed. Honestly, it's totally different out there.
Is that what kind of led you to becoming a sports broadcaster?
For sure. It's, I was an only child. My brothers and I are pretty far apart in age, so my dad just was very, he was trying really hard to make me a football fan. And so I just was always at games. So I knew football really well and, baseball, basketball, all of it, but football is definitely my favorite. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened. If you can't beat them, join them. It's kind of the family business around here, so.
Very cool. And so what was your team growing up? Or were you a college football fan growing up? Were you more of an NFL fan? What was your team?
It's funny. People always ask me that. I'm from the DFW area. I really like the Texas Rangers. I know I said I loved football, but like that was kind of my Dallas team. Obviously, you got to root for the Cowboys, even though it's a heartbreaker every single season. College football wise, I don't know. Like, I really didn't have a team. And I think it's because like I had hoped my brother was going to play for a team. And so my team is whoever they're playing for.
Cool. And so you talk about that big Oklahoma versus Texas matchup, and regardless of the records of the teams, that is always a huge one. I've never been to the Red River Rivalry, which is the hardest name to say.
Yeah, imagine saying that like on a weekly basis here. Yeah. It's like I just started saying OU Texas because I'm like, I can't say all these R's. This is too much.
I don't know who created that name, but it is hard to say.
Yeah, Red River Showdown or Shootout. Can we just pick another word for the last word? So
yeah. And so have you ever been to that game as a fan?
I've never been to it as a fan, and I'll tell you why, because I'm from Dallas. So everyone that's from Dallas, if you aren't a Texas fan or OU fan, you stay away from the fair that week because it's just so crazy. You go to the fair on your fair day that your school gives you, and it's on a random Wednesday, and it's not as crowded. So yeah, no, I had never been until last season, and it really is cool to see the divide in the stands of, the orange and then the crimson, and it just, it's a cool environment. It is old school, and it just kind of takes you back a little bit. But yeah, no, I had never been before last year.
And in the state of Texas, how is the fan base kind of split up? So for example, I grew up in Florida, like I said a million times, and specifically Orlando.
Okay, you love Florida. You can say it a million times. I love Texas.
Yes. So specifically in the Orlando area, this is before UCF got really good. Really good as in their fake national championship. Sorry to any UCF fans watching. But this is growing up, people would always ask, oh, are you a Florida State fan? And then if you went further south, people were more of Miami fans. So Florida is more of split into Florida State, Florida, and Miami. But growing up around the Tim Tebow era, it seemed like people were Gator fans everywhere. And then, of course, when Billy Donovan with basketball won back-to-back national championships there, it seemed like everyone was a Gator fan. But then as I got older in high school, the Gators weren't as good. And then more Florida State fans started popping up. So from your experience, what is the biggest fan base in the state of Texas? Or is it kind of split? Because there's so many big-time programs in the Lone Star State.
That's a really hard question. I feel like there isn't like a big program. I mean, maybe Texas, but there's also like in the Dallas area, a lot of hate towards Texas. Really? Like, yeah, like you either love them or you hate them. I grew up where like we did not like Texas. And like that still stands. And it helps me in my job here, right? Because I'm covering OU. So everyone here is like, yes, you don't like Texas, even though you're from there. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. There's just different, like kind of what you mentioned, bandwagoners. Okay. Yeah. When people are doing well, they jump on a bandwagon. So I don't know. There's a lot of Big 12 schools in Texas. Even though I'm a big TCU fan, I even went there for a little bit. I'm not going to say there's a ton of TCU fans because there isn't. But the ones that are awesome. So I don't know. I guess I would say Texas. Texas Tech is another big program, and then the Aggies. I think A&M has a lot of a fan base, and probably the two that are the contrasting is UT, which is Texas. That's what we call it around there, and then A&M, and those are the two big programs. Those are what really fighting words. That's where the fighting words happen.
Yes. And so were you at your station when OU in Texas joined the SEC officially?
Yes, I was. Yep. I was here for the first season. Yep.
So how was that reaction from especially Oklahoma fans? Were they excited to join the SEC from your experience? Or were they like, no, we want to be in the Big 12? How was that? How did that go?
They definitely did not want to be in the Big 12. There's no question about that. I mean, it's honestly the bragging rights to be in the SEC. I remember before I actually got this job, I was at OU versus TCU, and it was like the Thanksgiving game, and they were already yelling like SEC, and like, just this sense of pride that came with being in the SEC. So they definitely are excited to hang their hat in that conference. And, this year be really, really quite good in this conference so far. I mean, it's really early and you don't want to say too much, but they're competitive, no doubt. So the excitement is real and the bragging rights they love.
Absolutely. And not just in football as well. In the women's sports like softball and gymnastics are huge for Oklahoma. And to join the SEC, the most competitive conference, arguably, in those sports, I mean, that just makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. Softball's always been really good. Gymnastics too. And I think it does just, as corny as the one-liner is, it just means more. I like being corny, so that's totally fine. But it just means more to everybody, and more opportunities. I think all eyes are on the SEC always, even baseball. Just name your sport, and it's basketball. It's a big deal, and it's an honor to be in the SEC, and a lot of eyeballs are on this conference for good reason. I mean, they have a lot of success, and so, yeah, I think it's good for the University of Oklahoma to be, in the SEC.
And speaking of the SEC, the conference is going to a 9-game conference schedule. We're going to have 3 locked-in permanent opponents, and then the remaining 6 games, they're going to rotate. And so everyone's going to get the opportunity to play everyone and go to their sites as well, at least once every 4 years. So that is huge for college football fans as a whole. But the locked-in opponents for Oklahoma are Mizzou, Ole Miss, and Texas. And so Texas obviously makes sense, historic rivalry there. Mizzou is really interesting because both used to be in the Big 8. But Ole Miss is a bit of a weird one for me. Even Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin was like, well, he was like, we don't really have a connection to them. Like, he didn't seem like
what's the reason?
Yeah, he's like, I don't understand this. Like, what was the reason for this? But what are your thoughts on those 3 pairings that Oklahoma has?
I mean, I think it's really cool. I don't know. Maybe we could come up with other pairings and make them make more sense for Lane Kiffin. I don't know. But, I think everyone can relate to him and his honesty. I like him. He's a funny guy. But, yeah, I don't know. I think football is football, and the way these players – I always try to think about it from the player perspective. They don't really care. They just want to go win. These programs, Ole Miss is a really good program. They just beat LSU this past weekend. So, it's cool to see just what you're going to be up against every single year. I think Mizzou historically has had some up and down moments. So maybe that's a good thing for Oklahoma. I don't know. We'll see. Just to have maybe not so tough of an opponent. I don't know. But I guess it just depends on how things look throughout the course of history in the next couple of years. And everything has changed with NIL and revenue sharing. And I think if it's taught us anything, you can't really count any program out anymore. You never know who's going to be anyone on any given Saturday. And so, yeah, I don't know that the matchups matter quite as much of the history of who normally wins, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just because on any given Saturday, you never really know anymore. But I do like on this comment, I will comment on this. I do like that they have 9 conference games. It's about time.
Yeah.
It's about time. No more freebies. Let's get 9. So
and not only the 9-game conference schedule, there's also a requirement for them to have a power opponent, which I think that is so great because, as Florida alums, we love the Florida State matchup, and I would be so upset if they ever took that away. And
totally.
So keeping that one, for example, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, they took Bedlam away. And when that happened, I'm sure OU fans were not too happy about that. Or were they?
Yeah, or Oklahoma State. People love that rivalry, It's a good one, and I think they miss it in some ways. Maybe not this season, but I think it's something that people miss.
Yeah, I could definitely see them bringing it back for this new schedule that the SEC is doing.
We'll see.
I covered Arkansas for a while, and I know Arkansas fans, and I've heard from some Oklahoma fans that they really wanted to play Oklahoma in that matchup for their 3-game permanent opponents. And Arkansas has Texas, LSU, and Mizzou. And so Arkansas fans kind of feel weird about Mizzou. They don't really.
Yeah, I thought Arkansas made more sense for Oklahoma, but
yeah, that's what a lot wanted because of the distance. And Oklahoma's, I believe, the furthest west SEC school. It's pretty far out there compared to the others. And so they did kind of keep them in that region, but Arkansas fans really wanted to play them because it would have been a unique matchup, bordering states. So yeah, but what are your thoughts?
Bummer. What a bummer.
Yeah, it could have been a good one. And so as we head into, this week they're playing Kent State. which I think that could be a really good opportunity for Michael Hawkins Jr. to kind of get a little bit more tuned up and get acclimated to things before they go to the Red River Rivalry.
Yeah, no, it's the perfect. You hate to say there's a perfect time for an injury, but it is the perfect time for him to come in and just get reacclimated. Something that the head coach Brent Venables said is that, every quarterback has their strength no matter who you are. And so obviously Michael Hawkins Jr. has a different strength and skill set than John Mateer. And no one's saying that he's as good as John Mateer. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it takes time for a team to get, a rhythm is the word Venables used with a quarterback. And so the fact that you had a bye week and now you have Kent State to ease into this new quarterback behind center before you get to OU Texas, it is the perfect timetable for that to happen compared to being thrust into a game like what we saw last season against Tennessee when they're really, you have seconds to be back in there in the game and to be competitive. So yeah, it is a much more ideal scenario there's no ideal scenario with an injury. I just absolutely hate it for John Mateer, and I hope he has a quick recovery. But yeah, it is a good timetable for Michael Hawkins Jr.
Yeah, so we will see how that goes, and you guys can follow Hannah. Hannah, how can they follow you? What are your social media handles?
Yeah, it's at Hannah V as in Victoria Hoover, and just it's on that everywhere. Instagram, X, all the things, but I like Instagram the most, don't we all? So
yes. And so she does some great stuff in Oklahoma City. Of course, she doesn't just cover the Sooners, she covers Oklahoma State, high school sports as well.
And the Thunder. You can't forget about the Thunder. We're going to Media Day tomorrow to get started for this season, and I can't believe it because we literally just had the NBA Finals and they won it all. So I feel like we just got settled into college football and boom, we're back to basketball. So it's going to be busy this fall, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Great stuff, Hannah. Thank you so much for joining me today on SECT. But before you guys go, FanDuel is getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your thing is. FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? So visit FanDuel.com/SECU to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thank you, Hannah, again for joining me, and best of luck with all of your Oklahoma State, OKC, you name it, coverage. We'll see you guys next time.
We're going to stay busy. Thanks, Cierra. It was good talking to you.
Yes, we'll see you.